I call this a playground for hitting things. There's about 15 things to hit. It's cheaper than therapy. I started with boxing 20 years ago. Shortly after I moved to Toronto, I put posters up and down every corner of homo and sexuality in this city to get the women out to say, if you need something, come on. Once I started teaching all-female classes, I noticed a huge difference in how the women carried themselves. They were bigger in their bodies, they weren't worried about, nervous about stuff happening, and it kind of gave us a freedom to just to explore female aggression in a really safe environment. People get to see how strong they really are in a very short period of time. And they had no idea they were that strong because they were told they were a piece of crap all their life. They told that they were the lesser of the two. All my boxers have boxing names. So that's Viper, that's Surly, Cowboy, Turbo, Splatter, who is a neuroscientist with a big bloody nose, Callie, Vilminator, who's a professional opera singer in Toronto. All my boxers have a story. It's awesome. Well, I think boxing gyms have always reached out to people in need, mostly men, people often who can't afford and who could use something like this to help them. And if there's a community right now that could use a lot of help, it's the trans community. I've been doing a lot of outreach to the trans community for a long time, ever since my members started transitioning, and trying to figure out, okay, well, how can they still have access to the gym when we're an all-female gym? Well, the more you hang out with trans people, you realize the issues they face are incredibly hard. The rate of violence against trans people is through the roof, especially trans women of color. The rate of attempted suicide for trans people is 43%. The courage it must take for some trans people to walk out of their apartment, get on the TTC to get here, and what they must face in that journey must feel pretty dangerous. And that's not going to happen in here. We run one program for female and transgender survivors of violence. Somebody who's having a hard time as a survivor of violence comes in pretty depressed, and they leave, in 2 hours, they leave completely different. Supposedly it's the first trans policy for boxing in North America, and we make it available. If you run a yoga studio, a Tai Chi, you want our trans policy, take it. It's on the website. Tweak it however you want, but use it, learn how to invite people in. I hear stories that they got off the couch for the first time and left their house. They broke themselves out of isolation. They left an abusive apartment. They said no for the first time. Our ground rules: no transphobia, no racism, no ageism. It's a gym, it's a club, but mostly I would say it's turning into a community center. We have a food bank, we have a book bank, we have a bicycle and laptop program so that I can put them in the hands of women and trans people who can't afford them. I feel like it's what I was meant to do. I always remind myself when I hear another story, I'm so lucky to have this job. I would say my message is, don't hurt people. Don't hurt trans people. Don't hurt anybody. Love people. You get way more out of it,